I know somebody, and this individual has traditionally pretty much always been very much a gossip and always has a tea. And this individual is not known to be the most honest person, not the most honest individual. And for decades has always been very committed to celebrity gossip. Back in the day, I would listen to this person and I would often repeat things that this person told me. And then I grew to a point in time where I would mostly just listen to the person and just kind of just, listen, not say much or whatever, but stop repeating the rumors that this person told me. And now when I talk to this individual, I challenge them on a lot of the things that they say. Last time was going on and on about how all of these things, underground sex circles in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry, and how pretty much many of these A-list celebrities have HIV, and started calling out certain couples who are infected with the HIV virus, and was talking about one particular individual who had endured such a high level of trauma after being gang raped, repeatedly, and having, bodies, like thousands of men this woman has been with, has now just become pretty much an addict. And it is like, like a iced out addict, can afford, of course, to look nice, diamonds and all these things, can afford like the high grade cocaine. I'm not certain what the difference is between a cokehead and a crackhead, but according to this individual, this person has become really numb to abuse and trauma, and was telling me a story. And this is an individual that I don't know that she was talking about, but I do know that a relative of mine had close relations with this individual or whatever. Anyways, said basically at this point, this person is just numb all the time. It just gets numb all the time and is not even resisting like the idea of being raped. Just like take it. So just tapped out, just outside of their body, just numb to the whole experience of it all. They've been that traumatized. And I imagine that while I'm having this talk right now, that there is somebody right now that's probably getting traumatized, getting raped, and maybe high and maybe numb to the whole experience of it all. And so lacking desire as far as entertainment, me being an entertainer, me being a performer, and various things that I do in my art form, it's not a lack of ambition or a lack of desire. It's just the idea. And again, I take this whole thing, I have to preface this, I take this whole thing, everything that this person tells me with very much a grain of salt. This person is very much known to be a liar. So it could not be true. But let's just say, in theory, for the purpose of this conversation exclusively, let's just say that is true. Let's just say. It served a purpose in a sense of it helps you put certain things into perspective. And it helps you put things in perspective in the sense of what is it worth, right? What is it worth? What is it worth? What you pursue, what is it worth? You're around people, I've observed, especially my unique family in the sense of my mother has been always extraordinarily ambitious as a West African woman with a very unique path and story. And then my father is a New Yorker. So I don't know if you guys have spent a lot of time around New Yorkers, but generally New Yorkers they have a very much like a hustle spirit. Like it's a gravitational pull that they have towards like hustling. And I'm not saying that with a negative connotation attached to hustling, right? So I grew up with two parents who very much were very ambitious in a certain sense. But what I'm saying is that when you look at opportunities, if you're able to step back and look at certain things in more moderation, then it may not be a lack of desire or a lack of ambition that has you wanting to move a certain way, if you understand what I'm saying. Because stuff like this happens every day. People get numb, zoned out, gang raped, traumatized every single day. And some things simply just are not worth it. And so what I've observed is it's not so much the experiences as much as it is how you respond to the experiences. For example, science has a lot to do with behavior. Sociology, anthropology has a lot to do with behavior. People are able to study animals, study human beings. They can do test studies. They give people the same identical experience. 9 times out of 10, most people respond or react to that experience in this manner, right? So we can go ahead and we can do 1,000. We can have 1,000 lab rats or test dummies to figure out in this situation, how do people generally respond? And this can be done on a small level, and this can be done on a mass level, a global level, to say, let's orchestrate certain experiences and observe how people respond, right? Studying human behavior, and people will be generally inclined to respond in a certain manner. And when we talk about this idea of like dom, right? Or like you've heard like dominatrix. Like, what's a dominatrix? I don't know. I don't know if I've ever met a dominatrix. Probably. I used to bartend at a casino, so I met probably the full gamut of people, but you may not know. You know, they might just have a trench coat on. You just don't know. But a dominatrix, like the prototype of one is like someone who's in some leather or like patent leather, some very scanty kind of, maybe have some spikes or something like that. But it's this idea of someone who has this fetish, or it could be their profession, that they like to tap into a dominant side of them. They like to dominate. They like to control. They like to control to such a high extent that it actually arouses them. The thought of control actually titillates them. And when we think about dominating or domineering or think about power, right? Powerful people. And a part of the allure of it is the power of it all. So their stimulation is not just the idea of, making love to somebody in an, I guess, organic kind of fashion. It's the stimulation is the domination. That's what gets them off. And there are powerful men that, interestingly enough, and guys, you ask how I know this. Like I said, I feel like bartending for a while was not good karma, but I've heard the full gamut of stories and situations. People get to having a few cocktails, they start talking and all of this stuff. And I've heard some interesting situations when I was working in California, as well as right here in this 16-mile radius of this town we call Washington. You would be surprised. As conservative as it may be on the outside, a lot of times with this whole thing, this is kind of where I'm going with this conversation. A lot of times repression and suppression leads to fetishes, perversions, and deviances. When people have to appear to be when people aren't allowed to really be themselves, right? They can't speak freely. They got to walk on eggshells. They have to be politically correct. You're at the office, let's say 9 hours, 10 hours a day. And those whole 10 hours, you have to be basically putting on a mask and fronting, and you can't say certain things. And if you got to fart, you got to go to the bathroom and do it. You just can't be yourself. You can't be real. You got to walk on eggshells. There is a part of the human being that needs to have expression, self-expression. And I've talked about this on a metaphysical level as far as the root chakra or the throat chakra and the crown chakra and even the heart chakra, how a lack of self-expression can contaminate literally or calcify various chakras. Now you have energy blocks because you cannot express yourself, right? But we're living in a culture that does not allow you to freely express yourself. It's almost stigmatized. Here they go, they're talking, like as if talking is a bad thing. So what this does is creates an avenue for people to live this double life. And knowing that they have to put on a mask in the day, and they have to be at work and be professional and carry themselves in a certain fashion, because they know, some of the people who have decided to speak freely and are outspoken, people have ridiculed them, and they've become, oh my God, I can't believe this person said that, right? So they really want to make a very public display of the consequences of speaking freely, which is creating a culture of a facade. And when we come into the conversation even of religion, or we come into the conversation of culture and things like that, and we come into the conversation of what is politically correct or whatever, I think that this double-mindedness starts early when children are living in a monotheistic household, and nobody's perfect. Let's be clear about that. But children will be living in a monotheistic household, and they'll be like, well, Mom, Dad, we go to church every single Sunday, but I'm in Bible study class, and the Bible says that X, Y, and Z is what's expected of us behaviorally, but we're not. I don't see you guys acting like that. Not anywhere but inside of the church. So then, very early on, children begin to see that there's a double-minded culture that is being that they're going to have to figure out how to adapt to. And then they're very much indoctrinated and programmed in school as to what's acceptable to say and do. And the indoctrination continues on for years to come. And so they will begin to split, literally, have split personalities of what is acceptable in the public and what is acceptable in the private. And because society demands that, these things that are going on in private are way abnormal. Because what's expected in public is not normal either. People should be allowed to express themselves freely. So this dominatrix thing, a lot of times, these executives, and there's a lot of them here in DC where they have these big jobs, big titles, and they're running the whole company. They're, staffing. They're very successful. But they may have like a secret fetish of having like a dominatrix fetish. And the dominatrix shows up at the door. And you would think, right, not knowing, you would think that he might just like women in leather. But he's not taking that off of her. He's grabbing his ankles and she's penetrating him. Why? I think it's what I just stated. A lot of times people who have these very powerful demands have a need to feel powerless, maybe. Have a need to feel dominated, maybe. Have a need to feel controlled, maybe. I don't know. This is not something that I am grappling. I don't have a dominatrix fetish. But I'm just saying there's something to that reason why a very powerful man would want to feel dominated. And so the idea of dom, it could be deeply rooted in powerlessness. That could come from an overbearing parent, or potentially an abusive relationship that they had to suffer through, or even being married. A woman who's married to a very powerful man, and had an issue with that. And some women don't. Some women don't have an issue with that. Some women don't have an issue with being more on the submissive side. But some women do have a deep-rooted animosity and issue with the role that they were forced to play by being married to a very powerful man. And they harbor animosity and resentment and bitterness because of that. They don't feel, they feel powerless. They feel like their shadow or whatever. And so in that feeling, they go overboard. I guess you could say like a stereotype of maybe like a woman, a very affluent woman who just treats her, like, have you guys, oh my gosh, like I said, working at restaurants served its purpose for a plethora of reasons, but there are people that will come in and sometimes, a lot of times the guy might be cool, real cool, but the woman would just be so nose in the air, just snotty and uppity, just like a bitch. And it's like, why do you get off on this? Like, she's telling like the bartender to do all like this ridiculous stuff. Or like telling like the waiters to do like all this like ridiculous stuff, and like it's just like very condescending and mean spirited, and like literally like came in there not just really to eat, but to exert her dominance over that servant, that server. Why? Because in that little moment, potentially, that her man, who does whatever he wants, probably. He probably has a side chick, whatever, does whatever he wants. But decided he was going to carve out some time and take her to dinner. And 99% of her life, she feels so small, so powerless, has to take so much shit from that man, and hates every bit of her existence. She feels so suppressed and so oppressed and so minimized and reduced, which is a circumstance that she signed up for. Let's be clear and let's be honest about that. Nobody put a gun to your head and told you that that was the role that you had to play in life. So your own issue is with yourself. Let's be very clear about that. But in that hour and a half that they're out dining, when she is around somebody who is in a quote-unquote lesser position or in a subservient position, this is her time now. All of that resentment that she harbors from the position that she's in life is now her time to spew that belittling, condescending cruelty on that person, that waitress, on that person in a subservient position, because of her own issues that she's got going on. And some women don't have a issue playing their position as far as providing a balance to that man who may be in a very powerful position. It's a non-issue for them. It doesn't threaten them. It doesn't challenge them. They don't feel suffocated. They don't feel any kind of way about it. They very much love that man, and they very much have no issue in supporting that man in his entirety. But when we talk about this gender balance or the gender imbalance that we see within society, it's a matter of yin and yang. And so we all have internally both masculine and feminine qualities, but the lack of balance that we see on the earth is a lack of balance within. Generally, I would say that most people lack the balance between the yin and the yang, and this is what we are watching be carried out on a mega scale. Now, if you're not balanced within, if you don't have that internal homeostasis or equilibrium, it's very unlikely that you will find somebody who is, or you will attract somebody who is balanced. Or you may, but it may not work, because it's going to be very challenging for you as an unbalanced human being to sustain a relationship with an individual who is balanced. And so for some people that's not a problem, because some people don't seek balance. Some people seek domination. Some people seek control. There are women who prefer a man who operates in a more feminine fashion, or qualities that would typically be assigned to a woman. They prefer that. They prefer a man who may be more submissive, because they prefer control rather than, they prefer to dominate rather than be equal within a relationship. And so characteristics that are assigned to women, especially in a city like Washington, where it's a very ambitious city, it's a lot of people who are very career-oriented, characteristics that are typically assigned to women are devalued. And I don't think it's just here in DC or in these, big cities. I think overall we can make that generalization that a lot of times what we're watching right now, what we're witnessing right now, are characteristics that are typically assigned to women being devalued, and masculine qualities being valued. Masculine qualities like being less emotional, being more logical, things like that, being more strategic, more tactical. Women tend to be more loquacious, tend to be more talkative. Women tend to pour out our hearts more often. Men are typically less chatty, less talkative, more strategic, more, and these are qualities that are prioritized, that are valued. Qualities like being nurturing and compassionate. A lot of times right now in this particular climate, women are inclined less to show these qualities. But to me, these are divine qualities. I believe that compassion, kindness, empathy, love, expressing yourself, self-expression, creativity, all of these things that are associated with the divine feminine, these are divine qualities. Nurturing. There's nothing more beautiful than watching a mother breastfeed, or watching a baby chilling with his mom or her mom, and how happy that baby is. Like, it is a peaceful baby getting well fed, and her pouring out her heart, or nurturing the children and tending to the home. That's divine. There's nothing not respectable about being a nurturer. That is divine. That is supreme. Focusing your attention on teaching the youth, teaching young folks how to be good human beings. Even if you're a religious person and you have time to be able to teach the youth on how to get closer to God, that's divine. In doing it in a manner that's compassionate and nurturing, that's divine. That's really, really divine. That's very sacred. That's very special, and that's very, very beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. But we have a culture that wants you to think like a man, to be emotionless like a man, to be unbothered like a man, to be more material oriented like a man. And this is not to put men down. I'm just saying these are characteristics that are typically associated with men. There's nothing wrong, ladies, with being warm-hearted. There's nothing wrong with being warm-hearted. Nothing wrong with that. But in our society, it's shunned, and we have to question why it's shunned. And I think it's shunned for a variety of reasons. I think that generally people feel like in order to succeed that you have to embody the qualities that are typically assigned to a man. But the question is, if you devalue qualities that are typically assigned to a man, can you still be a feminist? can you still say that you are a feminist? Because if you put a superlative, let's say, on male qualities that are typically assigned to a man, you think that they're better. But then you say you're a feminist. So simultaneously I think you guys are following me. You are putting down women. You are putting down characteristics that are organic to women, elevating qualities that are organic to men, but saying that you fight for women, that you're a feminist. I don't see that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm trying not to apply like a blanket statement when I talk about, dom or dominatrix or whatever. But we have to really question like what our society has become and why we are witnessing a very dangerous lack of balance when it comes to the yin and the yang, when it comes to the balance of the masculine and feminine, and why. With sexism, women have done their part in upholding sexism by devaluing feminine traits. We have the power as women to decide, if what the type of world that we want to create. Do we want to design a more nurturing world? I would say that would be the wisest thing to do, because what we're seeing right now, the ills and the woes of society, are because of a lack of nurturing, a lack of compassion. When we operate from too much of a material standpoint, we neglect the impact that it'll have on the children and the elderly, the communities that need more nurturing. And this is the reason why our society is on drugs, because of the devaluing of the divine feminine. People cannot cope. People have to zone out. Literally, they have to numb out to be able to cope with the coldness of our society, the icy coldness of our society, because being real is not allowed anymore. But there are grave consequences to the structure, the way that this whole thing has played out and been structured. So this work hard, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that's being a woman, like all of these things are qualities that they consider respectable. This whole independent woman movement, do this, do that. It's very much of a masculine demand on our women. And I say, why? I think part of the initiative also is to earn respect from men, but I don't know if that's achievable. I'm not certain if that's achievable. I'm not certain if you're going to earn respect from men, because you devalue the divine qualities that made you unique as a woman. And so, your issue with men is that they divine these divine qualities that make you unique as a woman, but you devalue the divine qualities that make you unique as a woman. By how you conduct yourself, the things that you prioritize, and the powerlessness that you feel, the powerlessness of it all, the whole situation and circumstance. But how you respond to that powerlessness is not conducive to you obtaining power. Failing to understand that you have the power to feel empowered, the ability to feel empowered. Another reason is a large percentage of women have trust issues with men. They feel like they can't rely on men, that men aren't trustworthy, and that men have abused their power. This alpha masculinity thing. Circumstances where men have abused their power, have contributed to women feeling not able to trust men. But I would have to also say, you don't necessarily get to have it both ways. What do I mean by that? Well, if you want to be respected and you want power, then you can't be looking to men to give you the power that you want. You can't rely on men, but are you reliable? You can't trust men, but are you trustworthy? You say men but are you shit? Because when you make a bad selection, you have to say that there's a certain part of you that made that bad selection. What was going on in your mind that made you make that bad selection, right? So you selected an ain't shit man, but you selected him. Was it a lack of discernment? Was it a too thirstiness? Something internally made you select that no good man. So when you say men can't be trusted, can you be trusted? Can you trust yourself to make the right selection of a partner that can be trusted? You know, alpha men, I'm not going to say that there's not going to be issues that you're going to have to work through. You know, I know that there are circumstances, a large part of some of this whole independent woman movement is because women do not want men digging into their personal affairs in the sense of their spending habits. I think like women have a real hatred, and I'm speaking generally, some don't, but a lot of women have like a tremendous pet peeve on the highest level of a man telling them what they can and cannot buy. That for a lot of women, that's damn near a deal breaker. And from an alpha male perspective, if he considers himself the head of a household, he's like, that's part of my duty. So there's going to be issues that may have to be worked through. Because from his perspective, managing the budget, especially because everybody has weaknesses, and if he recognizes that your spending habits are a little bit of a weakness, that you spend on frivolous things, but to you they're not frivolous, he feels like he's more capable and more level-headed to control the budget, and more logical and more better suited to control the budget. But from a woman's perspective, some women have a tremendous issue with you telling them what they can and can't purchase. And if that man is the breadwinner, he will likely not have any hesitation in telling you what you can and can't spend. It gets a little dicey when you're earning your own money. This is part of the reason why women want to earn our own money. Because there are some men that are so meticulous about your spending habits. They want to know down to the penny how much you spent on some shoes. I mean, they're online looking at your bank account, talking about, you spent this on that. They want to know how much you spent on your hair, on your nails, on this. They have a big issue with how you spend your money. And a lot of women have a big issue with them having a big issue with how they spend their money. And so these are generalizations, but there are men who do not abuse that power. And there are men who very much treasure, your divine qualities. Some men don't like to date. Some men prefer to have a woman at home. Some men prefer the comfort of a woman at home. Think about it. As a man, you're out there, typically, traditionally, you're spending the money wining and dining these women on these dates. And there's great parts to dating. I, have spent time, or as a woman, I was on the scene at one point. I was on the market, and I had a good time. I've dated all kinds of men and had fantastic time at nice places, eating wonderful dinners, having great conversation, getting to know people, conversing and connecting on a mental level. It's wonderful. But the downside on a man's end is you're spending money out there on dinners, wining and dining these women, and that woman could be a psycho, she could be a leech, she could be a stalker, she could be a killer, she could be a hussy, she could be a scammer, she could be a trap queen. For all you know, she could be a chick with a dick. So there's a lot of mystery out in these streets, and you may be playing Russian roulette with your life in a sea of vagina, of mystery vagina. You got your wife at home. You know she's the only one that you're making love to. She looks out for you. She cares for you, nurtures you, makes sure that you're good, balances you. You guys have your dinners. It's home cooked. You know the energy that's coming in your meals when she's preparing those meals for you. You know she really loves you. She's got your back. You know, you may have a woman who even is so nurturing, she might draw a bubble bath for you, rub your feet and all that. You may have a real good wife at home. And there's a lot of peace of mind in that. There's a lot of peace of mind when you have somebody who really loves you. You wake up in the morning, your vitamins are there. You got your oatmeal before you head to work or whatever. You may have an at-home business, but you're good. It's Sunday morning. She's got the, for me it's vegan eggs, and almond pancakes made of almond flour. But you get the idea. You know what I mean? Making sure that you're well fed, making sure that you're good. And it's evident to us, at least I'm speaking generally, but a lot of women, it's evident when you're working a corporate job and you know when a man has a good woman by his side versus a man who's by himself, because of how he looks when he comes to work. It's like some men, you've worked with them and you're like, that man does not have a woman at home at all. Or at least one that does not care about how he shows up at work. Because he just looks a mess. Just a mess. He spends every single time, it's lunchtime, he's always dining out. And some men got it like that, but damn, especially in DC, eating out every single day. Not only is it expensive, but it's going to put some pounds on you. Versus that man, he comes to work, he looks good, he's all, loved up. He's got his lunchbox from some goodies, some leftovers from last night. He's eating good. He warms that up in the microwave. People at the office are hating. He warmed up that leftover lasagna from last night's dinner. And you're having takeout. You're having Chick-fil-A. And he's having gourmet from home. And he's cared for. The conversations when you're equally yoked with a partner that stimulates you intellectually, it's a wonderful thing. That's your best friend. That's your bestie. You guys are talking about everything under the sun. And if the conversations run dry, he hands you a book. Read this book. You got to read this book. You got to get this knowledge in this book. And it's just wonderful. You guys are just bouncing ideas off of each other. Your besties, your best friends. You talk up a storm. It's no dull moments because you're equally yoked. It's just that constant intellectual stimulation, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Your heart is nurtured. You feel good. And so he recognizes the value of that. So he's not going to abuse his power in that relationship because he knows. He might have been a bachelor for a while, and he may say, I've lived the bachelor life swimming in a sea of mystery vagina, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I value this. I value what you provide for me. I value this peace of mind. Me, as somebody who's health and wellness, you got to eat right. You're not having takeout. You're not eating certain things. You're not putting certain things in your body, You're with a woman, you see that. You see the youthfulness come. You see the body get tighter. You see, some pounds start shedding. You start feeling like yourself again. Your vitality is up because she did that for you, and he values that. He values that woman. He values that divine femininity. He values that so much that he says, I don't want my woman to be stressed out. I don't need her going into this work world and getting stressed out and not being able to support me. This is so valuable that I don't want to do anything that would ever tarnish her lack of trust within me. And so he's not going to abuse that power if he's a wise man. But ladies, the whole thing is, you're going to have to give up some of your power. From what I understand, from what I've been told, it's something that's you have to do. There will be a certain level of your power as a woman that you have to give up to maintain that relationship. But the same way with a man, there are benefits of being single or a bachelor, and there are benefits of being a bachelorette. But you have to value the benefits of coming together as a divine couple, and what you have to gain by that, from that, more than you value the power of your solitude. Because there's power in solitude. So you have to trust yourself to find a mate who's worthy of giving your power up, some of your power. You have to trust yourself to make a sound decision, that you have discernment. And this is not to say that because I made the comment of being a victim or a hero and you have to pick one, but we are human beings. We do make flaws. We do have flaws. We will make decisions that we will have to forgive ourselves for. We will make mistakes, and we are redeemable. We are human. We're flawed. Some of these pitfalls, ladies, though, can be avoided. And the respect that you desire, you have to figure out, do you have self-respect? Based off of the mate that you have, the problems that you have with that mate, was it because you were too thirsty? You didn't want to be a single woman at a certain age. There's a population that I'm speaking to. But there's also, your biological clock. And so that's something to take into consideration as well. A lot of women carry this stigma of, I don't want to be single at a certain age, which to some degree is antiquated, but for some people it's not antiquated. And that's debatable. Because some people believe by a certain age you should be married, you should have your divine counterpart, you should have your soulmate. And I can respect that point of view. But in order for you to know who you are and for you to attract a situation that is long lasting, there may have to be some work that you do before you attract that partner to really know who you are, to really know what you want. And that's where kind of personal responsibility can step into the equation and contribute to your womanhood. Dominate yourself. Self-mastery. Master yourself. Master your mind. Govern yourself. Govern your mind. Govern your belief system. If you're bitter, you're hate-filled, you can't regulate your emotional state. That's not self-governance. You self-sabotage. You know that doing certain things, a certain course of action is going to lead to your demise, and you do it. That is not self-governing. That is not respectable. Your respect is externalized, not internalized. Self-respect. You have a way of going about life that is not self-respectable. You don't respect yourself, and it's evident that you don't respect yourself by the things that you do, what you prioritize, your actions and your behaviors. The things that you focus on. Are you a victim? Are you a superhero? Are you powerful? Are you powerless? Be powerful. Don't act like a child in a certain sense of, playing pranks on people. You over here playing pranks on people, playing jokes on people like a kid. Talking about somebody's hair and nails. I don't want their hair to look jacked up. I want their nails to look jacked up. You're a grown woman. You're a mother. Talking about somebody's edges looking jacked up. And we make our jokes. I'll say I'm not so serious about it that I don't make a joke over here. But what do you primarily prioritize and focus on? I mean, there's a man who may just be sleeping with you but has no intention of marrying you based off of what you prioritize. Like, just looking at you, observing you, I don't want my kid to be like this. Like, he's like, and it's not even just how much money you have. It's like, I would rather die than have my daughter act like a woman like this. Look at the example that you lead for your children. Setting people up and operating in such an undignified manner. Plotting on people and scheming on people and stealing this is the example that you lead for your children? Some men want you to focus on stupid things because they're like, if she's focusing on stupid things, she's not focusing on me. So they can cheat on you and live double lives, and they can outsource their stimulation because they don't want to be around you. because of who you are and what you talk about and how you behave. Like, there's only so many conversations about another woman, if she's pretty or not, if her hair is real or not, how she looks and whatnot, if her body parts are real or not, that a man can stomach. A certain kind of man, at least. Some men will be like right in the conversation with you. No, her hair ain't real. Oh, they live for that. And that might be the kind of man that you want. Might be. But all this feminist stuff, count me out. Count me all the way out. Because I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. If you really sought power, you would be conducting yourself in a powerful fashion. You would be in accordance with spiritual law. You wouldn't be talking about women in this way. You wouldn't be upholding the power structure that you uphold. Similar to what I've said about peace, if you're praying for peace but operating in a chaotic fashion, that's prayer without works. That's dumb. You claim you want respect, but you aren't conducting yourself in a respectable manner. And you would be using your mind to assist the growth and the upliftment of the planet. And some women are. Some women are. So you got to figure out, do you want your power? Do you want your peace? What do you have to gain by giving up a little bit of your power? What do you have to gain by giving up a little bit of your domination? Are you contributing to homeostasis, equilibrium, and balance? Or if this is really about your domination, then just state it and keep it real. Peace.